This is the Owens Recovery Science podcast. All right, welcome back to the Owens Recovery Science podcast. Jack and I have hijacked the ship from Johnny Owens. It's been a minute. It's our first podcast of 2025, longest hiatus I think we've had. And man, it's just been, I don't know, it's been a weird, busy this year so far. We've had a hard time coming up with ideas for the podcast, but we also have changed our platform a little bit. So there was some of that kind of factored in, but nonetheless, we did not want to miss the Memorial Day podcast. So Zach and I are here to talk a little bit about Memorial Day this year. And then coming up next week, we're going to record a podcast on chronic ankle instability. So Johnny will be back. Those of you that just come from here for him, I'm sure that there are people out there that he's been greasing the wheels, just to get them to get the clicks on the thing and rate us. I'm sure it's happening, but he'll be back, and then we'll get rolling here and start pumping out some of these podcasts for you guys to listen to. And I mean, if you want to watch us, which I can't imagine anybody would want to watch us, dude. I mean, honestly, what are you doing with your life if you want to watch our podcast on YouTube? But if you want to, hey, it's going to be on YouTube, and we'll have these fancy clips now on Instagram, that AI does it. You don't even really have to do much of anything. So that's cool. And here we go. So Zach, Memorial Day, man, this is this year 4 that we've been doing this now, or 5?
4 or 5?
I forget. It's 4 or 5. I meant to go back and look because I actually kind of wanted to just sort of remember and kind of highlight some of the folks that have been on here. This year's going to be a little different. We didn't find somebody to come on and talk this year, which is fine, but it doesn't keep us from kind of accomplishing our goal each year, kind of setting aside a time to talk about Memorial Day and what it means, and trying to highlight some of the things that, we think might be kind of important given this day coming up, which, really ultimately is to honor those that have fallen in combat. So Zach, what were you? I always get it mixed up. I want to make you like the most badass sniper that there is, but then I remember how tall you are, and I'm like, he can't be.
That's right. You gotta.
Surely a good sniper is taller than Zach would be. That damn 50 cal is like the same height as you, bro.
Is probably taller. The 50 cal is probably taller. Yeah.
But you can get into those small spaces though, dude. So I guess maybe I'd never really considered it, but maybe the elite sniper is a tiny guy.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess we could start with maybe a funny story.
Let's do it, man. This is such a heavy day,
Anyway,
let's start with a funny story.
So, man, it was in early 2005. So the backstory of this that kind of leads into it. And I always tell people, Marines are just different. I think the military people in general are different, but the Marine Corps is definitely different. And the Marines that make up the Marine Corps, they're different people, It's such a family atmosphere. And in the sense of family it's like, man, you can dog and you can ride somebody, but no one outside the family does that. Like, they're not allowed to do that, right? So
Right.
My buddy, who he was originally going to be my spotter. This guy was from Macon, Georgia. So I was thinking, I'm like, dude, this is going to be the guy. Dude, he's like a hillbilly. We go to Iraq. Like, this is in the time of the portable DVD players that literally, like, you just fold open and put the DVD in and watch it that way. Dude, this guy's watching these DVDs of like hunting feral hogs with pit bulls, and the name of it was Dogs on Hogs. You would
this guy's gonna be perfect.
You would walk in, and this guy, he's got like a big old fatty of Copenhagen, and he's just like watching Dogs on Hogs. He's like, what? Another thing about this guy, he was the driver, because again, like, you're like, this guy, hillbilly country guy, this is who we need to drive the Humvee. Yeah. So the Humvees, we didn't drive with white lights, like regular lights, like you drive with a vehicle when it gets dark. We had IR infrared lights, and we drove with nods or night vision goggles. And so The Humvees don't have keys. They just have a switch, and it goes from like you just turn the switch to start and it kicks back to on then. So that's how it is. And then right below that is another switch that would switch your lights on, off, and to IR. So whenever we were getting ready to leave out of Camp Fallujah, the fob, it would come across the radio like, hey, we're going blackout. So the radio guy would relay it because the driver wouldn't have a radio. So he'd be like, hey, we're going blackout. I turn the lights off. Well, this guy, he did it twice. Instead of hitting the correct switch for the lights, he turned the Humvee off. And so the team leader is like, what is going on? Like, what are you doing? Like, come on, what's going on? So he starts yelling, whatever. He did it twice. He got demoted from driving the Humvees after the second time. And so I'm like, dude, this guy, he's going to be my guy. He's like this country bumpkin. So we're like in the fall of the deployment, maybe close to winter. And he goes, dude, he's like, I'm going to quit dipping. I said, no, you're not.
No,
you won't.
No.
This is not the environment that you're going to drop that habit, like guaranteed. So I always tell people, like, you get into like civilians are like, if someone says like, hey, I'm going to quit drinking or I'm going to do dry January, I'm going to quit smoking. You're like, dude, let me know what I can do to help you. Like,
yeah, everybody's encouraging you.
No,
That's great. Good for you.
In fact, I said, no, you won't. And I'll make you a bet that you're not going to. So we made this bet. And at the time, it was just a bet between he and I. Within a few weeks, the rest of the team got in on this bet, and everybody was betting against him. And the bet was a steak dinner. So everyone's betting like, dude, you will start dipping before the end of the deployment. Now, fast forward to this mission. So what was going on? So there was two major interstates. It's kind of convenient because we always related it to what Atlanta looked like, and just living here now, it just makes it easier when I tell the story. But basically, we had MSR Mobile, which is a major supply route, and it went north and south. And then we had MSR Michigan that went east and west. And Michigan went through the city of Fallujah. Mobile that went north and south just kind of went on the outside and around of Fallujah. Getting off of Fallujah, or getting at that interchange, we called the Cloverleaf. It was one of the most deadly areas of Iraq when we first got there. Fallujah was very heavily fortified. So as time went on through the Battle of Fallujah and whatnot, like things just got better. But they were still planting IEDs. And so they would they were putting IEDs along MSR Mobile. And so what our group was tasked with was to basically set up snipers to wait and watch for someone to put an IED in. So it was myself and two other guys. My spotter was one. And I had the 50 cals sniper rifle. It was the Sasser, as a semi-automatic sniper rifle is what it stood for. But either way, basically, this gun was ridiculous. It was 36 pounds. The gun itself. Not only did you have the gun that it broke in half, so into an upper and lower receiver, but then you had the ammunition with that, and also I had an M4 that I carried as well, just in case we made contact en route to the hide site, whatever. So
the M4 is basically fully auto AR-15, right? Isn't that right?
So ours were fully auto. The majority of the military is just a 3-round. Like the selector switch goes from
like a 3-round burst
to 3-round burst. Ours went from semi to full auto. But so that's what I patrolled in with, whatever. So there's 3 of us and we're patrolling in. I just happened to like look behind me, just like you just check your rear and whatnot. You're scanning all the time. Dude, I fell into this ditch. Dude, and the guy started laughing at me, and I'm like, dude, like, get me out of here. Like, dude, I am in this ditch. I fell down, like whatever. So as we keep on patrolling in, we get to this area, And we got there. It was a dried out stream bed. It was probably like 2 a.m. And we set up this hide site. It was a pretty slick hide site. We ended up having people walk in front of us the whole day long over the next day. And we had a goat come up and eat off the back of the hide site. We had a girl like walk behind us, never knew we were there. It was sweet. It was awesome. Either way, we're like now probably close to 3:34 in the morning by the time the hide site gets built and all this stuff. The way it works is you start rotating people to sleep. And I'm there and I'm like, dude, I smell Copenhagen. And he goes, no, you don't. I said, dude, I smell Copenhagen. I said, you have a dip in. And he's like, no, I don't. And no, dude, you got a dip in. I smell it. And he goes, he's like, all right. I put a dip in. I said, all right, dude, mind you, like we're in the midst of a hide site having this conversation. And I said, dude, you lost the bet. But I was like, whatever you got to do to stay awake, man. Just stay awake. I don't care. And so, and that dude, as soon as we got back like the next day, the next night. So we were there we were probably there for 14 to 16 hours. And then by the time we got back to the vehicles, dude, like, I mean, the whole team knew. And yeah, so yeah.
Well, and that smell is unmistakable.
Oh,
too.
dude,
you are not sneaking.
You're not
a
hiding
dip in close quarters and hiding that.
Yeah, you're not hiding Copenhagen. But yeah,
that's
man, dude, this guy, man, there's so many. I mean, another one, man. This was in the midst of Fallujah. We were out in a sniper hide, and then you just hear a gunfight in the distance. I mean, this was a massive gunfight. I mean, it was to the point, man, you're like, dude, someone is getting after it, and someone is getting it. And I'm on the verge of working something up with an individual across the river, across the Euphrates, and we had basically like this CIA type plane that we would communicate with and whatnot. So we're watching this individual across the Euphrates, and then I'm in communication with my group, and it's basically like, hey, just stand by, drop that, don't worry about it. They're gonna monitor it. We're coming to pick you up. Basically, like Bravo Company got hit pretty hard, and what happened was they turned down the wrong road, and the insurgents were laid in waiting on them, and they took a mortar tube, laid it sideways, and did like a direct fire mortar into one of the middle vehicles of the convoy, effectively separating the convoy now into two elements. And that was the massive firefight that was ensuing. So they come and pick us up, and we're like flying for backup, like a QRF type scenario. And we get there. There's a guy out in this field, and I said, hey man, like laze me to that target, because we had a laser rangefinder, and he lasers it and he gives me a distance. He's like 117. I said, no, that dude is further than 117 yards away. I said, hit it again. He's like 115. There's no way. This guy's 115 yards away. So I pulled up, I took the shot. Dude, it was way off. It was way short. I said, yeah, dude, you hit the azimuth. Like, so the way we use Leicas, and so one side you hit a button and it gives you the distance. The other side, it gives you a direction of the target, because that's what we would use for like close air support and things like that. So when you're calling in air support, whether it's like a helicopter or a fixed wing, like you need a direction to the target. So I said, dude, you gave me the freaking direction of the target, man. I said, hit the other button, give me a distance. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be like this backwoods redneck from Georgia. Yeah. So
he's just hitting the wrong buttons.
Yeah.
His whole life.
Dude, yeah. So, but yeah, anyway. So
that Copenhagen story reminds me of I can't remember if I told you the story or not, but I was in college playing baseball, and I played at Oklahoma Christian University, and about once a year we'd come down to Texas, and usually on spring break, and we'd play a whole bunch of games. We come to Dallas to play a place called Northwood Institute, and they always had a really good team. It was a slugfest. It was fun playing them because you knew there were going to be a lot of runs and a lot of action and that kind of thing. So my my dad and my grandfather came up to watch because it was only about a 4-hour drive from Houston. And my grandfather has dipped and chewed as long as I knew him. Like there was always a Coke can or a Pepsi can or a spitter or something somewhere kind of things. So I know this, but my teammates, they all know me as like this straight and narrow, like straight laced guy. I was like, I didn't cuss. I was like, very, very straight and narrow at this, church school. And standing over there talking to my grandfather before our game, because the team was actually playing another game before us. And he says, Kyle, any of these fellas on your team dip or chew? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, of course. And it was funny. He knew I didn't somehow. So he asked me that, and I'm like, and he goes, you think they mind if I bummed a dip off of one of them? And I'm like, I don't think they'll mind it one single bit. I said, I go ask that guy right there. His name's KT. Was our shortstop. So now all these guys know me. They know who my grandfather is. He's been there a few different times, but none of them had really interacted with him much. So he walks up and he's like, hey, Hoss, mind if I bum a dip? KT just like looks at him and he turns and he looks at me like, and I'm like, hey, give the man a tip. He needs his medicine. KT reaches in his back pocket and is right there and he just hands him a can of Copenhagen. And my grandfather goes, oh, Copenhagen. I haven't coped in a while. KT nearly fell down. He would bring that story up, for the next year and a half or however long we played together, man. It was so funny, but yeah, those old country
that's the
boys,
funny
man.
thing, so the thing about the military is, and anyone who's ever been in the military knows, contrary to what civilians think, it is not a well-oiled machine. There is a ton of standing around and not knowing what you're doing. So
flipping the wrong switches.
Whenever you stand around, like guys would literally, they would just pull out their can of dip and just start packing. Like, I mean, like it's just like it was between like packing their dip and then pulling out their knives and like flicking their knife open. I mean, you're standing around. Like I couldn't imagine standing in the Kroger checkout like waiting on someone to go, and I just pull out a knife and just start slinging the thing open. It was, I mean, you wouldn't even think. I was just,
we didn't need fidget spinners when we had Copenhagen and Skull. Like they were not.
Yeah, you did not, man. You pulled out a can of dip and then you just started packing the thing.
Gone are the days when guys would just snap it.
That's it. Yeah.
Even if you didn't dip, you knew how to do that.
Yeah.
It was just the thing. Too funny. I think you and I could probably tell stories from baseball and military for for hours. That'd be a whole podcast in and of itself, maybe. We might do an offshoot, one of these days of once the Owens Recovery Science podcast jumps the shark, Dak and I'll branch off and I don't know what the hell we'll call it, but we'll figure something out. Man. But let's talk Memorial Day a little bit. I think that, I don't know, for me, this podcast is special because, it's not talking BFR, so I don't have to read some stupid article or anything like that and get all prepared and sound sciencey and whatnot. But it also, highlights kind of a point in my history where there was something I just didn't know, and I was an idiot, but never really paid attention to the difference between Memorial Day, Veterans Day, whatnot. And, we were all kind of, or I was pondering something for social media, and what I came up with was just stupid, like considering what Memorial Day actually means, and you and well, more you than Johnny kind of helped me understand that I didn't really understand what Memorial Day is all about. So specifically, Memorial Day is about honoring those people that have fallen in combat, serving our country. But as a former Marine, reconnaissance scout, elite, best sniper ever, I don't even. This is how I just think of Zach. What is Memorial Day to you, man? Like, what do you think about? What are your thoughts when you start thinking about the day kind of coming up, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's you just start to think back about different things, different people that obviously, whether you worked with, you kind of knew of, kind of maybe served with, didn't directly serve with, but they were all in the same unit. And, it's for those people that gave that sacrifice where they didn't come home. Some of that hits closer to home than others. But I think the one thing, it's a struggle because it's such a dichotomous day where you want to remember them. But at the same time, I feel pretty confident in saying that a lot of those guys, they wouldn't want you like feeling glum and sad. I think at least the people that I serve with, they signed up to literally go to war. And it's such a weird thing when I did a Veterans Day talk at the high school I graduated from last November. And I said to him, I remember when I made the decision to enlist, I was in like eighth grade. I knew like this is what I was going to do. So this was before 9/11, before any of that. And I went to one of my best friends' homes around eighth, ninth grade. And we were sitting at their table, parents and kids, they were talking like, hey, like, what do you want to do when you grow up type of a deal. And I said, man, I want to go in the Marine Corps. And I remember this guy, the dad, super close friend of mine to this day. He said, man, Zach, that's a real noble thing, but what are you going to do if a war breaks out? And I remember thinking at that moment, isn't that the point?
Mm.
And the people that I serve with, that was the whole thing. So I enlisted the summer before 9/11. I had 1 year of high school to finish. So 9/11 happens my senior year. From there, I go to boot camp.
I didn't realize that.
And
Wow.
yeah, so I'm in boot camp, this whole time, man, like when Johnny has talked and he said about how there really wasn't a ramp up post 9/11
Yeah.
because the DOD and the Pentagon said, man, we had a huge ramp up in Desert Storm and Desert Shield, and it was a pretty big
Right.
waste. Like we literally fought that war for a few hours and we were done. And
Yeah.
that was the mentality of the military was, we're going to
We're
be
just better than everybody.
we're going to be in and out. It's going to be special operations, drone driven, minimal boots on the ground, like in and out.
Mm.
And so high school, I'm thinking like, dude, man, I'm going to miss this. Like, this is my chance. Like, this is it, like, dude, I'm missing my chance, the timing of all this, whatever. And so then go to boot camp. Go to the School of Infantry, like SOI. And then I go to the reconnaissance, like the training. It was the recon training platoon. I go to that. And I remember thinking, like, man, like I'm going to miss all this. So, in fact, they were looking for people to leave that unit and go to the grunts, go to the infantry. So, the way that worked was when my main MOS was like an infantryman. So, in the Marine Corps, it was an 0311. That's what my basic training was after boot camp. Go to the School of Infantry. I was an 0311. Then from there, I passed this screening to go to this reconnaissance unit. Well, in between, like once you graduate the School of Infantry and then going to the recon school, you go to this training platoon. So I'm at this training platoon and they're like, hey, like, the grunts need people, man. Like they need bodies. So we're going to war. And I remember volunteering. I said, dude, I'll go. I'll go. And it just so happened for whatever reason, didn't like however many people they needed, they didn't need me. And so I was like, all right. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to miss this I'm going to miss the deal. So then Iraq happens. Iraq was March of 2003. And I remember thinking the same thing. I'm like, dude, I'm going to miss the boat. Like, and that was the mentality of everybody. Everybody was, we're going to miss it because like there was a MU, which was the Marine Expeditionary Unit. They're there. We're still going through training. There is no way we're getting in any of this. And I just remember like guys thinking like, man, like we're going to miss all this. And it turned out that it really wasn't the case. We ended up being there a lot longer than what we had anticipated. So basically, training wise, went through the reconnaissance school and then did sniper school and then deployed. And then my unit, there's basically 3 of our units within the Marine Corps. The 1st battalion is in California, 2nd battalion's in Lejeune, which is I was part of, and then 3rd battalion is in Okinawa, Japan. And we were just on constant 7-month rotations. And so, guys, you're gone for 7 months. You come back for not even 14 months. Because a portion of that is you go pretty much immediately go into a school phase where you're just whether you're going to jump school, dive school, any advanced follow-on schools, and then from there you're doing a workup, and then you're redeploying, and that was the rotation. Yeah, and it was a grind.
It's wild, man. I can't imagine. You said 8th grade. You knew?
Yeah, man. I was pretty much watched a movie and it was like. Yeah, man, that's what I wanted to do. And in fact, I mean, there's so many funny stories.
What movie did you watch? Can you remember?
Crazy enough, it was a movie called The Finest Hour, which was it was a Navy SEAL movie, and that was my whole thing. Like, dude, I was gonna go be a SEAL.
Mhm.
The thing about the SEALs is the SEALs have the absolute best marketing. I mean, they should probably hire some
Yeah.
SEALs to go into these PT programs and teach them marketing and business 101, because if there is one group that can market themselves, it's the
Yeah.
SEALs. I mean, they're out there.
Yeah.
Whatever they
Yeah.
do, you know about it. I mean,
Right.
there's so many jokes
They're
and
the vegans of
spinoffs.
the military.
There's so many jokes and spinoffs. It's like, there's 230 SEALs in Vietnam, and I met all 300 of them. Like there was that. There's like, there's a SEAL, a Green Beret, and a Marine that walk into a bar. The SEAL writes a book about it. Like, there's just so much stuff. I mean, they market themselves quite well. That
Yeah.
might be a course they have during Buds and Hell Week. I
Oh,
don't
that's
know.
so funny.
But either way, so I watched this movie, and then I remember we had this. The state police came into the school because they would do this program called like Camp Cadet. So it was during the summer for like a week. You could go like live like you're going through state police training or something like this. And I remember I went up and talked to this guy, and I said, "Dude, I'm thinking about like, when I graduate high school, I want to join the military. I want to be a SEAL, and then after that, I want to join the SWAT team." Guy goes,
Mhm.
"Don't be a SEAL." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Dude, if you wash out of Buds," he goes, "you're just in the Navy." He goes, "You go join the Marine Corps, because if you don't do what you want to do, you're still a Marine when you get out." And I was like, that's a valid point.
There
And
you go.
so that was pretty much it. And I mean, I did have my dad was in the Marine Corps, and but other than that, like I knew at a pretty young age, like that's what I wanted to do. And then, man, I always tell people, I'm like, dude, I'm not that smart. And in fact, I was probably, whether I was lazy or just dumb, I don't know. But I can tell you my grades in high school were good enough for me to play sports, and that was about it. I knew 100% I wasn't going to college, and I didn't care about how good I did in school. In fact, my track coach, who was also my math teacher, we're sitting in math class senior year. It was the spring, and he goes, everyone's talking about they just got their SAT results back, and he's like, "Dunkle," he goes, "What did you get on the SATs?" I said, "What's the SATs?" I said, "Dude, I took the SMAP. That's all I got to do." And that was it, man. Like that was my deal. Crazy enough, and this is the honest to God's truth, I have never taken a college entrance exam to this day, except for the GRE, but never the
I was just
ACT.
must have taken the GRE.
Yeah, the GRE, but I never
Yeah.
took an SAT or the ACT.
That's wild.
And in fact, that's really the only reason I went to Penn State was I started studying for the ACT, and I said, "Man," and I'll tell people this, and anyone who knows Marines know this. The Marine Corps does a very good job at reducing your verbal skills to 4-letter words that rhyme with truck. And you get very proficient at using them in all parts of speech. And so you can put those in between words. Yeah, you get
Yeah.
really good. And so like I'm studying for the ACT, and I said, "Dude, this is not going to happen. Like this is not happening. I'm done. Like there's no chance." I knew it. So then I started looking around, and I saw that Penn State didn't require a college entrance exam if you're considered an adult learner. So I looked at the criteria for the adult learner. Sure enough, fit it, and I was good. And
Boom.
then
Perfect.
I knew enough too, coming like living in Pennsylvania. I was like, "Dude, I mean, I don't need to get into main campus. They got so many branch campuses. I'm guaranteed to get into a branch campus. Like I know I'm good enough, like with like the military, like I'm good enough that I'll get into a
Right.
branch campus." Crazy enough, man. I got into main campus as a freshman, which is extremely difficult. I still to this day don't know what they saw in my high school transcripts. I did have a professor, or my final year, he said that he goes, that the admissions people, they are able to project what your GPA is going to be. And academically, like things at Penn State, that's when things changed for me.
Yeah.
And so to this day, I wonder, because like in my mind, I'm always like, I'm competitive. And in my
Right.
mind, I'm like, did I beat the mean? Did I beat what they thought I was going to do? Because I
Yeah.
graduated in 3 years with a decent GPA. And so I'm like, I wonder if like what they thought. It was one of those
Yeah.
things. But yeah, man, so that was the deal with.
Well, I think to be a sniper, like there's a lot of math you've got to do. There's a lot of information that you have to learn and retain and apply. Like feel like learning how to be a sniper certainly must have kind of probably helped you figure out how to learn too.
Yeah, that
So
was
that then you could kind of apply it
it was
later.
it was sniper school that just changed my life. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no question about it. And here this was crazy too was uh, if you would have said to me, like going in the Marine Corps, like, what do you want to do? It was be a recon Marine. That job has changed a little bit. It's the kind of follow on. It's the same school, but once you go to that school, now you're eligible to go to MARSOC, which is Marine Special Operations Command and things like that. Yeah. But so that reconnaissance school, that's all I wanted to do. That was it. Like go to recon
Mm,
school. And then someone said something about sniper school and how it was the toughest school in the Marine Corps. And I said, well, man, I want to do that then.
bring it on. Yeah.
And so it was, and that was like the academic side. It wasn't necessarily like super academic, hard, but what was
Hmm.
hard was it was the day-to-day grind. We took tests every single
Mm,
day. And you had to be hovering, you had to average above an 80. Or you're done.
okay.
Along then
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you went to like actual, not that you didn't go to school, but you went to like college or high school and you were getting tested every day?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's crazy, like looking back and when I was in school, like the test anxiety people would have and whatnot. And, that was the thing. I mean, the deal with sniper school was our day started around 5 in the morning. And it would be a test. It started with a test. Whatever the
Hmm.
material you learned the day before, you took a test on that. From there, you ran to the rifle range, which was probably maybe like a mile or so. You ran with a pack and your rifle. So you ran there, hid all your stuff in the woods, and then half the class would run to the end of the range and they would be the one pulling targets. So the range was 1,000-yard range. So that's over another half a mile that you're running down. And
Hmm.
then so half the class shot like half the morning, and then you just switch, and then you run back, and then from basically around noon to 6 o'clock at night, you take class. You're doing classwork, and then once the day is officially over, you're on your own, and you can stay up or you can go to sleep whenever you want. It's all on you, but you have a test the
Yeah,
next day, and
you got
so
to test the next
you
day.
just end up like you go to sleep whenever you feel like you learned the material. And that was
Yeah.
like that's what created a mindset of is you can do anything you want as long as you just put your mind to it and you're willing to work
Hmm.
for it. So yeah.
I think it's an interesting concept though. Like, you wonder, I mean, at some point you don't have test anxiety when you just got to test every dang day.
Yeah.
At some point it's just like you're conditioned, like, okay, this is what it is, and like some of that anxiety probably comes from the fact that maybe you're just not tested enough, and
Yeah.
I mean, we talk exposure and things like that all the time in rehab and therapy and trying to get muscle and bone and tendon and all those things to change,
Yeah.
right? So you just kind of wonder, like,
Yeah. It
it'd be
was
interesting
crazy.
to like revamp like formal education and be like, you're getting tested every single day. Boom, 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 boom.
And yeah, like one of the other things they would do is they would say, like one of the very first things that you walk into the classroom, and I think it was actually on the wall said like you were always under observation, and that's
Mhm,
just a sniper thing. Like someone's always watching, right? So,
mhm.
dude, like you would take the test. Sometimes the instructor would walk out. Like they wouldn't be there, and so you're on the honor system of are they watching or
Yeah.
is no one watching, because like I know that they had microphones in the class because like we were talking one time about doing land navigation and I mentioned about like this was long before like Garmin watches were really a thing, but like you could have GPSs in a watch. And this was like the very early onset. So I'll never forget, like I was running back to the schoolhouse during land nav and the instructor comes like racing down the road and they pull off, and what they'll do is they'll spot check you. They'll make sure like you're not cheating, like you don't have anything that would like cheat, like you don't have a GPS on you, things like that. The one instructor in the vehicle and the driver goes, check his watch, check his watch. Yeah. So
Always trying to get you. Dang it.
yeah.
I mean, if you're not, I'm a Houston Astros fan, baby. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Let's go.
That
Win at
was
all costs, Zach.
that was the Marine Corps mentality: is if you're not cheating, you're not trying. If you get caught cheating, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
that was the deal. Yeah.
I mean, there you go. I hear that. I understand that. Well, man, we don't have a guest this year. I did want to just kind of shout out the folks that we've brought on in the past that have told stories about their friends, buddies, comrades that have died in combat. Like last year, we had Cameron on, who was awesome. Who did you get to meet him at CF?
No.
Dude, I thought you missed him. Dude, I need to send him an email. Cameron, if you're listening, buddy, hey man, I love you. Thanks for coming on last year. He came by the booth and I was talking to somebody, I think, and introduced himself. And he's a big dude, man. He's about 6'2". Like I didn't expect him to be that big for some reason. And I was like, but I was like, it was just chaos at the booth. And I don't even think you were there just yet for some reason. Anyway, and then he could see that we were just busy, and so he left, and so I didn't really get to chat with him at all, and I felt really bad about it, and I was hoping he'd come back by, but he didn't. But at any rate, he stopped by the booth, and that was cool to meet him. So we had him on last year. We've had Johnny Yellick on, who was a former patient of Johnny Owens. That guy was super fun and funny, and he does a lot of cool stuff, a lot of speaking stuff and things just around the country. We had Ryan Hendrickson. Hendrickson, I think is right.
Yeah.
We had him on, and Ryan is a former limb salvage, has an IDEO device, and has a foundation that it's a group of civilians that I guess former military, now civilians that go and do landmine retrieval and disablement in Ukraine, because apparently Ukraine is the most landmine nation in the world, and they're doing a big event, a big fundraising event in Dallas coming up, I think in June, if I have that right, at the Dallas Country Club. He just announced that on social media the other day, but he has a book, Tip of the Spear, that is just kind of his story, I believe. Cameron had a book. What was the book that is about his company?
It was his unit.
Unit. So it was about Cameron's unit, who they were in like the craziest fights over in Afghanistan.
Yeah, it was in Afghanistan. Yeah. Look, first casualty.
Probably you didn't just know it right off the top of your head. I didn't mean to try to stump you.
No, like I have it. 1 million steps, I think, is what it was.
1 million steps.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll find it for sure. If nothing else, I'll look in.
That's what it is.
1 million steps. Okay. Yeah. So the book is 1 million steps. If you would like to read that. I was thinking about who else we had on. We've had on.
We had a buddy of mine, Tom Schmidt.
That's right. Tom. Yes.
Yeah, MARSOC guy. He was the. I want to say it was the second year we did it.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was awesome for him to come on. And then we've had a general. I can't remember the general's name. Author?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Something like that. I was a colleague, a friend of Johnny's, who was, had a lot of decision making, that he had to do.
Yeah.
And lost a decent amount of folks, and he memorialized them, which was really, I don't even know what to say about when somebody, I started to say it's really nice, but it's not like a nice thing. It's just, I guess it's a good thing to do. I mean, that was the whole premise of us starting this, was the conversation you and I had, and just kind of talking about how there's the second death that service members go through. And that second death is when their story is just not told anymore. And they've, they're kind of forgotten in a way, and so we wanted to, that was kind of my thought with this podcast was, well, let's do our part to try to prevent that second death.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's why we do this. If you listen to this, you have a friend, family member, colleague, what have you, or you yourself lost somebody in combat, you'd like to come on, memorialize them, talk about them, tell their story. I think, in the end, a lot of times I'll put just kind of the hashtag, tell their story on this. A lot of people use the hashtag Remember the Fallen this time of year, but stories live on. They have just you get Zach and I going on just old stories from baseball and military, and we filled up about 40 minutes, honestly, Zach, of just telling stories from back in the day. So I think everybody, no matter how heroic or menial, we all have some coolness to our story, and nobody knows that better than the people that are close to them. So we'd certainly welcome anybody to kind of come on and chat. And we're at least trying to think about this through the year. Things just didn't work out this year to get somebody on, but we did want to take some time and kind of because one of the points Zach has made through the years with regard to the deaths from combat is those deaths aren't just necessarily battle related on the field. An explosive device goes off, something like that happens in a different country. Like sometimes these deaths are suicides. In the mental health aspect of things, and that happens unfortunately way too much in our former service members. And so we want to make sure that we give voice to that. I mean, we also have kind of put together like a list of charities that we wanted to just kind of talk about that do their part to kind of take care of service members, and many of them specifically kind of taking care of like Gold Star families that have lost a service member in combat, but just in general, helping service members deal with the lack of belonging, I think is kind of probably, to summarize, the conversation we had off camera, Zach, the lack of belonging that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And lack of purpose, I think, was also the thing that you had kind of said.
Yeah, I think that's the tough thing is, especially I think on the service member side, because the suicide aspect is definitely multifactorial. It's not boiled down to one specific thing, and we certainly don't have answers as to how do we solve this crisis. But I really think there's a lot of good foundations out there that are trying to tackle the issue, and trying to get the messaging out. I'd say probably one that really comes to mind that the sole focus of the foundation is to deal with post-traumatic stress of combat veterans is it's called the All Secure Foundation, and it's founded by Tom and Jen Satterley. And Tom is a Delta Force guy, was literally just got to the unit right before Mogadishu. He was involved in Black Hawk Down and then has done numerous deployments, Iraq, Afghanistan during the GWAT. And they have a foundation. I mean, he's went through his own struggles dealing with Mogadishu, and so he's written a book, and they've created this foundation to help other veterans. And I think in his book, one of the key things that he talks about is how veterans have this idea and this mindset of, I can't talk to someone unless they've shared the same things or experienced the same things that I did. And one of the things that he mentioned, I think was a really strong take home point was, whenever you're deployed or whenever you're in that combat situation, you have breachers, you have assaulters, you have snipers, you have engineers, you have, people with dedicated skill sets to help optimize the success of that mission. So now when you come back from that, you need to talk to someone who's optimized for the success of the follow-on mission, which is your health. Mm-hmm. And that's someone who's properly trained. I mean, it's not the guy that you used to go drink beers with and have a great time, whatever. These are people that are dedicated and are trained to deal with those issues. Yeah, sure. Like they weren't necessarily shot at, or, have IEDs going off in the vehicle or things like that. But those are people who went through some very specific training to help veterans and help those individuals coming back deal with that stress. So yeah, like Tom and Jen Satterley are phenomenal resources, and their foundation. They'll do retreats. I think the great thing about the retreats and whatnot that they'll do is not just for the warfighter, but it's for their families as well. So, and that's a piece that's really important, is it's the incorporation of the family, because there's multiple individuals that need to be able to manage this situation. And it's a total team effort. And then, man, you can just take a look at any website that's a foundation that deals with helping Gold Star families or helping veterans, and every single one of them specifically mentions mental health, because that's the crisis that we face. In fact, I believe the statistics now, we have lost more people to suicide uh, during the period of time of the GWAT and the people who have served in the GWAT than what we lost in combat.
In combat. God,
So that's the crazy thing is our veterans and military folks are killing ourselves more so than what the enemy killed us. So that's the big kind of deal. Like everyone is trying to find different ways. And you and I talked off the camera, and like I said, suicide is a very multifactorial issue. No one has it figured out clearly, but I really think one of the issues that folks face coming out of the military is a lack of purpose. When I was in the military, every single day, I had a purpose to the day. Whether how significant I perceive that purpose to be, there was always a purpose of the day. So every single day, there's something that you need to do, something that you have to accomplish. Obviously, when you're deployed, it's a bigger purpose.
Right.
But when you get out, people struggle to find that purpose. They struggle to find value in what they do. And I think that is the big challenge that we face is how do you reinforce to someone that they are valuable? Just their pure presence is value. They offer value to other people's lives. And it's hard to think about if you've never been there. But those individuals, when you get so far down the path, your mind just starts messing with you. And your mind just starts telling you all these people are better off without you. Look, like your kids don't want to see you like this. Your wife doesn't want to be around you when you're like this. And so then it just goes down this path of, well, if that's the case, then why am I even here type of a deal. And you got to reach out and you got to talk to someone. And it sounds real easy, but dude, you're valuable. The world is a better place with you in it. Whether you think so in a moment, I can tell you the world is a better place with you in it. Your kids are better off with you around than you not around. Believe me.
You're here.
Your kids would rather wake up and see you in the morning than wake up and go to your tombstone. That's the deal. Sometimes it's hard to believe that, but that's the truth. A couple other foundations that I'm personally familiar with, and this isn't like all inclusive or like the absolute best. These are just ones that I am personally familiar with from guys that I worked with that have gone on to work at a foundation or what have you. The one is called it's Warriors in Quiet Waters. And one of my very first platoon sergeants, Chip Raybon, he's a chief program officer for Warriors in Quiet Waters. And what it is it's based out of Bozeman, and they do retreats for veterans. And this is largely just it's an outdoors type of deal. And I'm obviously biased because to me, like this just hits home. And my experience with the people that I work with in the military, that's what these people do. They're big outdoors people, whether it's camping, hiking, hunting, fishing, whatever the deal. It's outdoors type people. And so what Warriors in Quiet Waters does is they'll do retreats. They'll bring in people like fly fishing experts. And Montana, if you've never been to Montana, I would encourage you to go to Montana. The people in Montana don't want you to move there. They want you to come visit, and then they want you to leave, especially the people in Bozeman.
This is 100% accurate.
I will tell you, but 100% Montana is absolutely amazing.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
The streams, the rivers that they have, like some of the best fly fishing in the United States is in Montana. Like the Madison River is just south of Bozeman, around like Ennis, Montana. But either way, so there's that. There's hunting that they can set you up with and whatnot. And then they do follow-on stuff as well with people. So it's really an all-inclusive aspect where they bring experts in that if you wanna fly fish, they're gonna hook you up with people that know how to fly fish. You're gonna be guaranteed pretty much to catch fish. If you want to hunt, they'll teach you like strategies for hunting, like big game hunting, things like that. So it's that aspect of, and then the other thing combined with that is they bring veterans together. And I really think that is one of the best things that can be done. You know, like Kyle, you were just talking about telling stories. There's not much more that's therapeutic than you get a group of people around, especially if you share certain experiences and a certain background. You can tell those stories. And then, back what I was just initially talking about at the very beginning about riding people, the military in general is nothing but ball busting. And it's just a very good time, I mean, like, dude, the people that I worked with, man, you would dish it out and they would give it right back to you. When people talk about locker room talk, man, that was the Marine Corps for me. And it's one of those things that people are like, you missed the Marine Corps. And it's like, no, I don't really miss the Marine Corps. I miss the people that I worked with, though. You're not finding those people. But anyway, like I said, so the Warriors in Quiet Waters is an excellent um group foundation that if you're struggling, if you want to try to find a purpose, it's a good group to connect with. You can do retreats with them and then follow on things like educational, therapeutic
Yeah.
things that they can.
Yeah, they've got a big team. I was looking at their website. They got a big team of people that, from counselors to, I think, even just like fitness people, diet folks. I mean, it's very kind of comprehensive, sort of teach you to take care of yourself however you need help taking care of yourself kind of thing, which, I think is really wise, because I think, um, have you ever heard of the band Suicidal Tendencies? You haven't? Okay. So there's a band there. They were the original band that kind of meshed like punk rock and rap. So they're from like the Venice, California area. Their lead singer, a guy named Mike Muir, he actually lived in Camarillo where I live years and years and years ago. He was my patient, crazy enough. I can say that now because it's been long enough, and he wouldn't care, honestly. But I'm like doing the little H&P, and I was like, "Hey, what do you do for a living, man?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm in a band." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." I'm like, I go. He was super humble about it, and I didn't recognize him or anything. And I was like, it's a. I go, what's the name of your band? Like what kind of music, that kind of thing. And he goes, and now, mind you, like I had like a little bit of fluff on my face, and I'm very like clean cut looking dude, physical therapist in this medical office. And he's like, "Dude, you're not gonna know, like you don't listen to this." And so ah, man, try me. I've got actually my taste is pretty broad. And he was like, name was Suicidal Tendencies. "What?" I'm like, "Dude, of course I know, of course I know that band name." And so then, like maybe a few days later, like I went on vacation. A few days later, one of my friends, who is a huge like music guy, he texts me, goes, "Dude, Mike Muir's our patient." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I was wondering if you would recognize him." He goes, "Of course I recognize him." He was all defended that anyhow, the name of the band pops into my head because I recall just, I mentioned the band's name to my mom one time, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, what an awful name." I go, "Really?" I go, "Is it? Because don't we all at some level have some suicidal tendencies? Doesn't everybody do shit that's not healthy for them at some level, And so that's bringing it full circle. I think it's really wise of that company or that group, that foundation, to have all of those aspects kind of built in so that they can help people wherever they need that assistance, because with the goal of improving their mental health, their personal growth, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I think on the mental health side, it's very, you can look at it like just physical therapy is in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we get so sucked into one aspect of that and we neglect what else is going on psychologically, that factors that play into that, contribute to what's going on, whatever. And I mean, it's such a two-way street. Of exercise can benefit the psychological aspects, and psychological aspects can benefit someone's pure motivation to exercise and want to do something. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I think, I'm by no means a therapist, but I think being able to get with someone who can help you address issues and kind of where do we need to kind of, shift our fire, so to speak, from a military standpoint, like where's our fire need to be directed.
Yeah. Well, just helping identify the problem, right? I mean, you got to know
That's it.
where the problem is, what the problem is before you can take care of it. Which brings me to a baseball thing. Come to think of it, I don't know if you saw this, but in my story the other day, I posted a reel of Oral Hershiser talking about how he really thinks the problem with baseball pitchers and they're blowing up their elbows and this is that they've got all these high speed cameras and they're learning how to spin the ball and this and that, and it's the high effort. And I was watching that and I was like, he's an idiot. It was an Oral Hershiser thing. The guy that had, but I literally thought that to myself. Now, I think you know this, but my uncle was a bullpen catcher for the Houston Astros for 36 years, somewhere in there, 36, 37, 38 years, something like that. Long time. So he knows Oral. He's the one that told me Oral was an idiot. I didn't believe him. But then I heard Oral make that statement, and it was very clear to me that Oral doesn't know what the problem is. Like, he doesn't understand that the problem with elbows in baseball isn't with these big leaguers and these very elite folks. Sure, that's what we hear about on TV. The problem is all these kids that are barely in high school that are having UCL tears and surgeries to fix their arms, and those kids aren't in the stinking biomechanics lab refining their spin rate and doing all this stuff. It's just a function of training load and doing too much and not having downtime. And so anyway, that's just where again, full circle, you got to have people that are good at identifying the problem. And then just because they can identify the problem doesn't mean they have the capacity to help fix it, right? But, part of being a good professional is being able to recognize when this is not my skill, this is somebody else's. I'm good at helping to identify what needs to happen and let me get you to this person who can help you with this problem, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is having, again, because you get into a complex issue, you need to have multiple professionals, teammates on board to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Then I would say the other, or one of the other foundations that I'm most familiar with. This is a unit specific foundation, and pretty much a lot of, when you get into like a specialized unit, a lot of those units have foundations that people have started. The Rangers have some. One of the more common one is like Three Rangers Foundation. I believe the SEALs have one. The Green Berets have one. Special Operations in general has one. But for my unit, there's two. One is the Marine Recon Foundation, and then the second is the Recon Sniper Foundation. With the Marine Recon Foundation, basically the mission statement is to provide reoccurring emergency assistance to folks of the recon community, as well as families of those Gold Star, or the Gold Star families. So one of the things that they'll do every year is they do a recon challenge, and it's part to kind of a fundraiser that you can generate revenue funding from that. That will start then the Gold Star Retreat. So the Gold Star Retreat is always kind of begins with the Recon Challenge. The Recon Challenge is roughly a 26-mile kind of race out in Camp Pendleton. Pretty rigorous. And then all along the way, they will have stops. And I believe it's the challenges as part of that 26-mile race are named after the fallen Recon Marines. So they'll do that to memorialize those individuals, and then they go to Hawaii for a full-on retreat for the Gold Star families, and they've been doing that for I don't even know how many years now. It's an annual thing that they do, and then the Recon Sniper Foundation, I believe, was started in 2015. And it's a foundation for Recon Marines as well as Scout Snipers. They have the Recon Foundation as well, will support athletics. So for Recon Marines, you can join the foundation, and then they will basically sponsor you for, if you want to do triathlons, if you want to do weightlifting, if you want to do shooting, whatever competition you want to do, you can basically start up a team, and then you can represent the unit while you're out competing as well.
Okay.
And then with the Recon Sniper Foundation, when I really came across them was after the Kabul airport attack in August of 26th of 2021, pretty much as soon as that happened, they stood up a funding campaign to help raise money for those 13 service members who died in the attack. And it just so happened one of the hunting companies that I buy pretty much all my hunting clothes from partnered with them, and that company is called Kuyu. They're actually out of I think it's Dixon, California, is where they're based out of, and they match donations up to $25,000, and so it's just like the foundations, like it's dedicated for recon Marines or recon scout snipers, but they raise money for military Gold Star families or military folks in general to help them in times of need, in times of struggle, such as that. And then that kind of gets into spinoff of companies like Kuyu that partner with these foundations, and they will give proceeds of sales to those military foundations. So, one of the things that I've become more aware of over the last few years is supporting companies that have a vision that supports my vision. And so, a company like Kuyu that will give money to Gold Star families or partner with a specific foundation, I think is great, because it's those smaller foundations that you're probably never really heard of that are a lot more connected with individuals. They have a lot less bloat and a lot less overhead. So your money is going to that, whatever they say they're doing, that's where your money's going. They're not going for, salaries of executives and whatever. So, if you're really passionate, say about Rangers, for example, or Green Berets or whatever military aspect it is, I guarantee you there's foundations out there, and those foundations are very well connected with those units. And that's what I would really encourage you, to seek out. One of the other hunting companies that's based out of Bozeman was Sitka. And Sitka, the last 3 years, all their sales, whether it be on the website or in their stores, on Memorial Day, they have given all proceeds from that day to the Folds of Honor. And the Folds of Honor is a website a foundation that specifically provides educational opportunities to spouses and children of Gold Star families. And I want to say that is education from kind of pre-K kindergarten the whole way through college. Just foundations like that, they do great. Folds of Honor is pretty popular, but other ones you may not have heard of. And so just seeking that out.
Yeah. See, I've heard of them, and I think it's worth saying, like, we're just kind of highlighting groups that we're familiar with, like there's, and like you said, I think you're 100% right that, these smaller groups that are a little bit more connected on different levels, you kind of know where your money's going. But that's not to say that these bigger groups, like you think of Wounded Warriors, I think, is it Wounded Warriors? Something, like we need those kinds of groups too, because they can accomplish like big things that are important, and they're definitely more community facing, and bring kind of awareness to stuff that might not otherwise get attention, which is valuable too. I'm sure there's people out there that just want to wear the t-shirt, but there's plenty of good that those groups do as well. But and I would say, like, just even supporting some of these groups, like a lot of them have cool t-shirts. Just go buy a t-shirt, and like that goes to the company. Like I was looking at, I think, Satterley's t-shirt. I'm like, that's a cool shirt, like I would wear that. I mean, it brings awareness. There's no better marketing than a good freaking t-shirt,
That's
there's just
it.
not.
Like you look at like that All Secure, their logo,
Yeah.
and
Their logo is cool.
it's pretty cool. And then the thing of it is it has a story behind it.
It
So
has a story.
you,
Yeah.
you look into it and you're like, oh man, like it's a pretty cool logo. That's like something I would wear. And then
Yeah.
you're supporting a cause. And it's I think it's a worthy cause.
100%. 100%. I'm familiar with one group that I wanted to share. I'm only familiar with it because my uncle supports them. It's a group called Headwaters for Heroes. They are based in like kind of the hill country of Texas. So they do a lot of like hunting, fishing type stuff as well, Zach, specifically focused on, wounded veterans, Gold Star families, that sort of thing. And they have a big event every year where they have like a skeet shooting and all this other stuff, and they have a barbecue competition. You know, we had to work in the barbecue somewhere, dude. Come on, man. We had to get it in there. But they do lots of fun stuff. My uncle, who has a big ranch in Texas where he runs hunts and different things. So some of these guys have come and hunted on his place. He supports them. So I wanted to shout them out on his behalf and just put it out there. There's another group to just maybe look at connecting with if you need to connect with somebody or somebody that needs some kind of connection and help. Another group that's trying to do good work and seems to be kind of focused on the right things. So Headwaters for Heroes. We'll put all this stuff in our show notes along with whatever info we think is pertinent, but also doesn't just overwhelm you. I get overwhelmed at the menus at Cheesecake Factory and things. So I try to be informative and concise.
Yeah.
Did we cover everything, Zach? Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, man?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think so. I think we hit.
Okay.
I think the big thing that we wanted to hit was entities, foundations out there that can help people.
Yeah.
Whether that's a Gold Star family, or if you're a veteran, and you're struggling, there's resources out there, man. And if you feel that you need to talk or you need to get with a specific veteran or veterans group for it, but there's veterans foundations and organizations out there that can help you. It's sometimes the VA can be a struggle, man, and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
So, but there's people out there that genuinely do care, and are willing to help. So
I'm into that, man. And I would say, hey, just reach out to Zach or I. I mean, we're happy to do whatever we can on our part, but we are not, mental professionals. We are mental.
yeah,
We are not.
I
We are
mean,
not good at helping people with problems with their mentals.
yeah,
But we are happy to be an open ear and to help direct, etc. So thank y'all for listening to Memorial Day 2025. Hang around because we'll play taps. That's our kind of standard at the closing of this. We want to make sure that we do that and stick with us. We got some more podcasts coming up, y'all. See you later, Zach.
see ya.